Am I alive? Am I alive? Am I alive? I think I might be live. Give me a sec. I think I'm live. I'm not entirely sure if I'm live. Hello if you're watching this live. Hello if you're watching this on playback. Thank you either way. I'm going to check I'm live here. I think I'm live. Just going to check I can hear me fine and everything. Yeah, I can hear me fine, which is great. I always check on my phone, like every YouTuber should. But yes, hello there, and welcome to my 15th live stream today. I haven't actually done a video under a couple of days because I've been busy actually editing a video I'll be uploading tonight, which is why I'm doing the live stream this morning, because so you get a bit of a break between both, and hopefully you get to watch both, because the video I've been working on tonight, I've spent a lot of time on. So, if you do go watch that, thank you very much. But anyway, talking about this live stream now. Today is my 15th live stream, like I said, and I'm talking about superhero movies yet again. I feel like I'm always talking about superhero movies, but I'm talking about them yet again because actually I read a bit of news this morning that kind of got me a bit interested. The fact that the Guardians of the Galaxy director, James Gunn, is actually calling most superhero movies boring right now. And he's even got his own superhero movie, another superhero movie, The Suicide Squad, coming out later this month, but by the way, I'm very excited for. And I'm going to be talking about that, and at the same time, I'll also be doing my Black Widow spoiler review, so look forward to that. That'll be the first thing I'll be doing. Well, I'm not going to be doing my spoiler review of it, but I'll be giving some spoiler thoughts on the film, and at the same time, I'll also be answering any live questions sent in, and I'm pretty sure any live questions will be sent in. But if you want me to talk about something in particular in my next live stream, my 16th live stream, please do let me know in the comment section below, and I'll probably talk about it in the next live stream, whether it's Bond, I don't know, movies, superhero related, or Star Wars related, or even something else completely different. Please do let me know in the comment section below if you want to talk about anything in particular in my next live stream. But anyway, just before I get into my live stream topics today, I should get some housekeeping items off the top. First of all, I do live next to a main road, so if you have any sound interference, like I don't know, a bike or I don't know, a tractor or a truck at any point in this live stream, I do apologise. And at the same time, though, I also live in the country, so if I for any reason sneeze in this video, that's because I've got hay fever at the moment. It's quite bad where I am at the moment. But the thing is, though, if I sneeze in the video, that's why. I haven't sneezed in any of my live streams yet, but you know, don't count the chickens, as you say. But anyway, yeah, just wanted to say that I've got hay fever at the moment. I live next to a main road, and at the same time, though, is there anything else? I was about to say something else, but I'm not sure there's anything else. I can't think of anything else. So, without further ado, let's get into my topics for today. And topic number one today is my spoiler thoughts on Black Widow. Now, before I get into my spoiler thoughts on this film, I should say this. I was actually going to go watch this a second time, and I was actually all gearing up to go and watch it yesterday. I was going to go watch it yesterday, actually. And then I was thinking to myself, do I really want to sit through this film again? Because my problem with Marvel films, it's more often than not, they kind of decrease on quality on a playback when I watch it again. And I'm afraid I'm going to have a very worse, I don't really, not good English this, but I'm afraid I'm going to have a very worse experience, or a much worse experience, should I say, a much worse experience going watching Black Widow a second time. Now, I might be completely wrong, and maybe if I did watch Black Widow a second time, I might absolutely love it. And I will probably get around to watching it, you know, a second time in the near distant future, but the thing is, though, I was really not keen to go watch it again, actually. And actually, I'm going to go watch a different movie tonight, hopefully. So, fingers crossed that movie's a bit better, and I'll be doing my review of it pretty soon on this channel. I'm going to go watch In the Heights, by the way. So, fingers crossed that movie's better, and I'll be doing my review of it soon on this channel, probably. But anyway, get the point there. I almost went to go watch Black Widow again, but then I decided not to. Because, honestly, I had such a bad experience with the film. I uploaded my review, which seems to be getting a lot of views, by the way, which I'm very excited about. The fact that I've got, like, over 100 views on my Black Widow review, which is just great. I just came out of left field with that, and I really like that about my review. The fact that I somehow got over 100 views on that video. I've got to guess why I got over 100 views. I think it's because it was a rant. But in the end, you know, I gave my opinion on Black Widow, and I hate it. If you like it, that's fair enough. I'm happy for you if you like it. But honestly, I absolutely hated it. There was some qualities about it which I liked, but overall, I thought it was a terrible movie. I actually thought it was one of the worst MCU movies I've seen. I mean, I know it's a big comment, but honestly, I do. I think it's, you know, in the same range as Ant-Man and the Wasp, Iron Man 2, Thor the Dark World, and even Captain Marvel for that matter. And I should point out again here, I'm not one of those, you know, male YouTubers that just, you know, who just hate female superhero movies because they're female superhero movies. Actually, I kind of like them mostly. I really like Birds of Prey. I really like, you know, the 2017 Wonder Woman film. But the thing is, though, I really wanted to like Captain Marvel and Black Widow, actually. But I ended up just not liking them. And it was just... I hate that disappointment actually, because I want to like them. I want to be part of the the MCU community, if you will, where everyone really likes those films. But honestly, I just think people are a bit blinded by them nowadays. I just think when something Marvel comes around, people automatically like it just like that because it's Marvel. And the thing is, all the people who criticize Star Wars for being like, oh, Disney ruined Star Wars and everything. Disney made Star Wars worse. Disney did all this shit to Star Wars, things like that. You know, guess who owns Marvel? Disney. I don't understand all these people who say like, okay, Disney made Star Wars worse, but then Disney made Marvel better. It's kind of like contradicting yourself. I know the two, two different studio heads who, do the, or who, help around with all those films. Like I know Captain Kennedy does the Star Wars films, and Kevin Feige does all the Marvel stuff. But the thing is though, in the end, they're both Disney. They're both trying to appeal to a certain audience, and I don't like people who say that Disney ruined Star Wars and then Disney made Marvel better. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever said that, but you get my point there. It annoys when people love Marvel movies because of Marvel movies. And I think that's what's happened with Black Widow here. I think in about 10 years' time, and I might be wrong here, I think about 10 years' time, people will dislike Black Widow. I think that's going to be the truth, because in the end, it's a filler film. Just where it takes place in the MCU timeline, shows that it's a filler film. It takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. Hence, it's a filler film. We've skipped over this part of the timeline already. Now, unless, I don't know, in the near distant future, we get a future MCU movie like, I don't know, this probably won't happen, but say in the Eternals, there's a big reference to Black Widow, and actually you had to watch Black Widow to understand the Eternals. By the way, I don't think that'll happen, but say something like that happens, then maybe I'll be wrong, and I'll accept that I was wrong there. But I don't think I'm going to be, because in the end, Marvel is Marvel. They're not gonna make They're not gonna make things too complicated for people who haven't seen their, past movie or past TV show. I'm actually gonna get onto that actually later in this live stream about one of the problems I actually find with the Black Widow post-credit scene, which everyone seems to be raving about. The post-credit scene of Black Widow is absolutely fantastic. I don't mind it. I didn't dislike the post-credit scene, but actually, it shows a problem Marvel films and TV shows right now, which I'm gonna go into later on this live stream. But anyway, going back into my point that's a filler film, it's just where it takes place in the time. Like I said, it takes place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. You skipped over the part of the time already. And, I was just kind of sitting there thinking, why haven't we heard of these events in, any of the previous Avengers films which we have recently, Infinity War and Endgame? Why haven't we heard of these events in WandaVision? Why haven't we heard of the events in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which you would think you might hear about some of the events in Black Widow in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? That's the sort of thing you'd probably hear from right there. And why haven't you heard about it in Loki? But at the same time, though, I can kind of understand why I wouldn't have heard about it in Loki, actually. But I'm not going to get into that, because I'll be doing my review of Loki at some point next week, Wednesday or Thursday, but one of my review of Loki. But anyway, back onto Black Widow. You get the point there. I was just kind of sat there through most of the film thinking, why haven't we heard of any of this yet? And the simple answer is, it's bad planning. This film was badly planned for when it was released. I'm not saying the film was actually badly planned in terms of production, in terms of story and everything. I do actually think the story for Black Widow is alright. I don't think that's one of the bad parts of the film. But the thing is, though, it's badly planned in terms of when it was released, because the film came out after, okay, I was about to say 3 MCU TV shows. We only had 2 really, because we're still halfway through. Well, we're getting close to the end of Loki, so we're about three quarters way through Loki. So basically, you've had 2 MCU TV shows, and at the same time, though, you've had about 4 MCU films, which are meant to take place. Okay, I won't count Captain Marvel actually. But you've had 3 MCU films which are meant to take place after Black Widow, and yet we haven't heard about any of this. It's just bad planning, which leads me on to one of my first spoilery points about this film. Now, I should point out, if you don't want to know anything about this film, and you haven't watched it yet, and if you don't know already, if you didn't read the title of this live stream, I will be getting into some spoilers for Black Widow. And if you don't know anything about Black Widow, and you haven't watched it yet, and you're gonna go watch it soon, go and check out Black Widow, then come back to this live stream after, and I'll be talking about some of my spoiler thoughts to do about this film. But if you've seen Black Widow, and you want to know my spoiler thoughts on the film, stay watching, I suppose. But anyway, I made a list here about some of the things that actually annoy about this film. And, I actually got annoyed writing them down. But anyway, let's talk about some of my perks to the film first of all. I really like the opening scene. I really like the whole opening sequence. I should have said the sequence, it's more of a sequence. I really like the whole opening sequence of the film, where you see, the Black Widow, quote-unquote, family, get separated and everything. I thought that was actually a fantastic scene in the film. It's actually quite heartbreaking to watch. I really like the use of American Pie, by the way, which, is a young Yelena's favourite song, American Pie by Don McLean, great song by the way. I really like the use of that in the opening sequence in the film. I thought that was brilliant. But then, I don't know, after the opening sequence, things kind of went south for me a bit. It just kind of felt like the film was pulling in different directions that I didn't really want to go in, I must admit. And I didn't really like that about the film. And at the same time, though, I also really liked David Harbour's Red Guardian in the film. I think he was the best part of the film, actually. I didn't love the way the character was written, and I didn't love his reintroduction halfway through the film. Like, you see him in the opening scene, and then obviously you don't see him until about half an hour later. And then when you see him again, he's in this Russian prison, and he's doing an arm wrestle, but then he's also getting tattooed at the same time. And I'm just there thinking, how is the tattoo coming out as well as it is? Because he's moving his arm all the time, and his tattoo is getting done on his shoulder. It's like, how is this working? But anyway, I didn't really like the reintroduction that much, but I really like David Harbour as Red Guardian in the film. I think it was actually one of the perks of this film. And at the same time, though, I'd also say Florence Pugh was great in the film as Yelena. Although, one of my criticisms of the Yelena character in the film is I just think she's forced in there to be the new Black Widow. Or to be, maybe not the new Black Widow, but to be another Black Widow in the MCU. Because I don't think Scarlett Johansson is actually done with the MCU yet. I think we're going to see her in a future MCU project probably in the next year or so. But anyway, going back onto the topic of Yelena, I think she's just kind of forced in there as a new Black Widow. For the sake of just having someone else in the MCU that's, I don't know, another female in the MCU, to be honest. And I'm not against that whole idea, having another female character in the MCU, but what I am against is the way it's put in there. It just feels a bit forced. Like, we haven't heard Yelena in the events of Infinity War, Endgame, WandaVision, The Falcon Winter Soldier. You'd think that she may probably be the Falcon Winter Soldier, actually. But no, because this film is badly planned. So you have Yelena, you have Yelena's first appearance in this film, and then you do kind of wonder, okay, where's she been now? Where has she been? And why haven't we heard of her before as well? I just almost missed that out there. And it's just like, Yelena is forced into the film for the sake of having a new Black Widow in there. We've never heard Yelena before. We've never heard of this, Black Widow's quote-unquote family before. And now we're getting told about them. And it just all feels a bit forced, in my opinion. Like, it isn't new. Like, they didn't plan it well. And, like, they just kind of sat down and think, we'll just get away with it. Because people like it. Because in the end, and I'm going to get onto this again later in this live stream, in the end, people just go crazy for Marvel. They'll defend it, whatever. There are going to be people who defend this film and say, well, the family stuff makes complete sort of sense, because the reason we haven't heard about it is because of all this. No. The reason we haven't heard about it is because it's bad planning. That's the reason we haven't heard about any of this yet, because it's bad planning. They didn't plan this well, that we got introduced to Yelena this late in the MCU timeline, and at the same time, though, we haven't heard about her in Infinity War, Endgame, WandaVision, and The Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's a bit iffy. Or even Ant-Man the Wasp, for that matter. And so you get my point there. And, I mean, you probably wouldn't hear about the Ant-Man the Wasp, but still, you get my point. The thing is, though, I don't know. I like David Harbour and Florence Pugh quite a lot in the film. I also think Scarlett Johansson's better as Black Widow than she's ever been. And at the same time, I like Rachel Weisz quite a lot in the film. But the thing is, though, I just don't think the characters were that well written, even if I like the performances quite a lot. And anyway, there's also some other perks of the film, like I said, I like the use of American Pie by Don McLean in there. The parts of the film I think are well shot as well. I think it is a well-made film. I think all the MCU films are well-made to varying degrees and everything. And I think Black Widow is well-made. Probably not one of the best of well-made MCU films. I think there is some, clear use of CGI in this film, clear use of the stunt doubles and the fight sequences, which is something I never really say about an MCU film. And I do think there's some issues with the film in terms of production, but I do think it is well made at the same time. I don't think it's a badly made film. And at the same time, though, if you like it, that's good. I'm happy for you, but personally, I just don't. I think there's so many huge problems to the film. I mean, I've made a list here, and I could go on and on and on. Let's talk about the villains first. I thought, all the stuff with Taskmaster and Ray Winston was all a bit Bondish. Ray Winston's villain in the film, what's he called, Dreykov or something like that. I thought that was all a bit like a Bond film, and not like a good Bond film, so I point out. One of the bad Bond films, something like Moonraker, where it almost feels, even to the point they were watching Moonraker at one point in the film. Scarlett Johansson was actually watching Moonraker at one point earlier in the film, wasn't it? And I was like, oh wow. And I thought they were going to do something like really Moonraker-ish, like it's going to go a bit meta and go a bit intertextual a bit later on in the film, but they didn't. But the thing is, though, even to the point that they're watching Moonraker, one of the worst Bond films earlier on the film, Black Widow was, and then the whole third act of the film gets all this, kind of like Bond-like, but almost like a parody. Ray Winston feels like one of the worst Bond villains I've ever seen on the screen. He's one of the worst MCU villains I've ever seen. Honestly, he really is. I couldn't even understand what he was saying in the cinema, I must admit. And at the same time, though, I hated the way he played that character. I hated, like, Black Widow, I'm gonna kill you. And there's another big problem to this film. I'm gonna get into Taskmaster again too, but here's another big problem to the film. Black Widow's not going to die. Because she's in Infinity War, the next movie in the timeline. So she's not going to die in this film. And that's the problem with it being a prequel. And that's why it's badly planned again. Because it's a prequel film. So you know Black Widow's not going to die in any of the scenes of the film. So you kind of you're sitting there watching, okay, I know Black Widow survives. I know Black Widow survives. I know this and know this. And then it's things like that which are really annoying. Like all the scenes where she's in between, you know, Ray Winter's character and Black Widow. You know Black Widow survives because she's in the next movie in the MCU timeline. That takes away any sense of danger with that character because you know she survives. Pardon me there. You know she survived, so it's just like, okay, what's the point of this scene then? I'd rather Yelena be in those dangerous scenes. Because even so, I did personally know that Yelena survives because I know she's in the Hawkeye TV show, which was confirmed a while ago. Even so, I did know Yelena survived. There's going to be thousands and thousands of other audience members that just don't know she survived. So actually, it'd have to be better if she was in the dangerous situations. But no, Black Widow's put in there, and you know she survives. There's no sense of peril in those scenes. But anyway, go back onto the villains now. Taskmaster is awful. You know the whole twist with Taskmaster when you find out that it's Dracov's daughter, and you thought Dracov's daughter died early in the film. Honestly, I forgot Dracov's daughter was actually a character in this film. I was sitting there thinking, that's the reveal. When the reveal happened, I was like, what? I completely forgot she was even a character in the film. I completely forgot that Dracov's daughter died early in the film, and then she's under the Taskmaster suit, and I was like, okay. I suppose it's not a bad reveal, but at the same time, though, it's also not an interesting one. I wasn't sitting there going, wow, like it's something really, there's a film which was like really, really well. I can't think of the top of my head right now, but okay. Usual Suspects. Last few minutes of The Usual Suspects are absolutely brilliant because you don't see it coming. I'm not going to give away the end of The Usual Suspects because it's such a brilliant ending, but that's one of those endings where you don't see it coming on and you go, wow, now that's absolutely brilliant. I want to go back and rewatch the film. I didn't feel that with Black Widow. When they got to the twist scene, I was like, okay. And, oh, by the way, ignore that now. Just got an email. Ignore that there. But yeah, just I got a little. If anyone heard that noise, by the way, my laptop is just I got an email come through. But anyway, I got my point there. I just kind of sat there in that twist with Taskmaster when you found out Dracov's daughter, going, what is the point? I completely forgot about that character. And anyway, going on with the villains in the film. Not really a villain in the film because she actually turns good, but Rachel Weisz's character. Rachel Weisz's performance is good in the film. I like her in the film. But the thing is, though, everyone seems to forget about the evil stuff her character has done towards the end of the film. And by the way, Rachel Weisz is there in between David Harbour's Red Guardian and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow on the poster. Everyone seems to forget about the things she's done at the end of the film. Okay, she's tortured animals. We see that actually happen in the film. She's tortured those pigs on the farm that she works on. But let's not forget about that. And she's, helped brainwash all these, younger Black Widows. But let's not forget about that. She's worked with Dracov for all this long time, this evil mastermind. But let's not forget about that. Because in the end, she's part of Black Widow's quote-unquote family. And so we all have to forgive her in the end because this is an MCU movie and that's what we have to do. And it's like, what is the point of Rachel Weisz's character? Everyone just forgets about the evil stuff she's done in the film and it gets really, really annoying. And at the same time, though, let's move on to some of the other big points of the film. Let's talk about another character who's quite bad in the film. This arms dealer who pops up throughout the film and he's meant to give Black Widow things throughout the film. He pops up and gives her the jet and everything. He gives her the helicopter to get into and he gives her the Quinjet at the end of the film, which she uses in Avengers Infinity War. By the way, that ending really, really got on my nerves. I think I'll get onto later on this live stream as well. Boy, oh boy, I have so many problems to do this film. But anyway, going on to the thing to do with Otifag Nabal's character. I might pronounce his name, I'm going to apologize. I don't really know his name. It's Otifag Nabal's character, something like that. But anyway, he's the arms dealer in the film and he pops up throughout the film and gives Black Widow things. Here's the problem to his character. First of all, he's the nicest arms dealer we've ever met in a film ever. Ever. He's the nicest arms dealer in the world, can we point out. And at the same time, though, he literally just uses a plot device to give Black Widow things throughout the film. They could have thought of something a bit more interesting, like, okay, Black Widow got this throughout the film because she breaks into, I don't know, a warehouse, and that's where it is, and maybe the arms dealer sat there as like, oh, I thought you'd come, and then actually, I don't know, he ends up giving it to her, but he's got like a sour relationship or something like that, but in the end, he just turns up in the middle of nowhere in these, dead fields or something like that, these dead-end fields, and it just gives Black Widow, like, a helicopter or a plane or something like that, and he's just like, it's nice to see you again. He's like the nicest arms dealer in the world, isn't he? He's doing all these things, getting all these, like, he's being quite illegal, getting all these, really dark and dusty stuff, like Black Widow and everything, but he's super nice about it. He's really happy because he's helping Black Widow in the end. And honestly, he's just used as a plot device to give Black Widow things throughout the film. If he wasn't in it, they would have found another way to give Black Widow things. And I just think he's such a useless character. I was actually a bit interested how that character was actually going to be in the film, because he wasn't really, shown in the marks in the film or any of the trailers that much. And then in the end, he just turns out to be an arms dealer that's just used as a plot device to give Black Widow things throughout the film. That's what he used for. But anyway, let's go on to some of the other things of the film. I'm just going to look up my notes quickly a bit. Let's go on to my second page. I made 2 pages worth of notes on Black Widow. Okay, let's talk about the ending, which I almost didn't mention. Hated the end of this film because it just sets up Avengers Infinity War. Literally, you have Black Widow with the blonde hair like she does in Avengers Infinity War at the end of the film, and then we have the arms deal again, the nicest arm deal in the world. He's giving her the Quinjet, which she has in Avengers Infinity War. Kind of fills in a very, 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 very small plot hole to Avengers Infinity War there, which wasn't bad. Hate the way it's set up in Avengers Infinity War though. Hated that film because I literally just sat there and it was like this. I literally just went like that at the end of the film because it literally is that the way you were ending, Black Widow's first solo outing ever. That's the way you're ending the film, setting up an Avengers film we've already seen. Can we point out as well? We've already seen that film, but you set it up. What's the point? I hated the ending. I also didn't like the fact that they got Alan Silvestri's, Avengers score at the end. There you go, bum 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 bum. Boom. Then that's when it went to that's when it went to credits to the film. And I just hated the fact that they got Alan Silvestri's Avengers theme at the end of the film. You got a low glimmer of the Avengers theme at the very end of the film. I hated that. I liked the Avengers theme quite a lot actually. But the thing is though, I wanted a film which is more self-contained. I didn't want to hear the Avengers theme. I've heard it enough in so many Marvel movies. I don't mind the theme, but I've heard it so many times, especially in Avengers movies recently. Literally, they just force it on you like da 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 da, and so many scenes in all the Avengers films, and they just get to be like, really, can we tone down Alan Silvestri's score a bit? It's a good score. But so many times you hear just the main Avengers theme, it does get a bit too much. And then here again in this film, I just like, those brilliant memories of watching Avengers Endgame the second time brought back to me. By the way, if you don't know already, I'm not a fan of Avengers Endgame, and I had a bad experience watching the second time. Not because I had a bad experience in the cinema, because I just noticed so many things wrong with that film which just really annoyed me, and I will make a video about why I don't like Avengers Endgame in the near distant future, but for now, I'm focusing on Black Widow. But anyway, back onto Black Widow. I just hated the end of the film. I hated that it set up Infinity War, a movie that we've already seen, and onto the topics of Avengers, this movie has way too many references to the Avengers. Honestly, Red Gunn's obsessed with Captain America, and I just hated that. I get that he's meant to be like the Russian Captain America, even David Harbour has described his character as the Russian Captain America in this film, but still, I don't mind a couple of references to Captain America, but there were a lot of references to Captain America. There was also references to all the other Avengers as well. It's like, can we just stop with the references to the Avengers? Can we let this film exist by itself? Because in the end, I just don't think it does. I don't think this movie exists by itself. I think if you haven't watched the Avengers films, and you go and watch this movie, you just won't be getting quite a lot of jokes in there. Well, I say quote-unquote jokes in it. I never found them funny. But the thing is, though, you won't be enjoying quite a lot of the jokes in there. You won't be getting quite a lot of references. It's one of those issues with the Marvel movies. People who defend Marvel go, oh no, each Marvel movie and each Marvel TV show for that matter, they exist by themselves. You don't have to watch any Marvel movie or any Marvel TV show to watch this new Marvel TV show, this new Marvel movie. No, you do. To understand the references, you do. That's what you want to get out of a film. You want to get a full personal fulfillment of the whole of the film. And so you have to sit there and you have to understand everything that's going on. And, you're not going to get that in something like Avengers Endgame or this film for that matter. Because there's so many references to, the Avengers that you just kind of sat there going, okay, I don't want to watch an Avengers film. I wanted to watch an Avengers film. I wouldn't watch an Avengers film. I wouldn't have come to watch Black Widow. And it's just things like that in the film which just really get my nerves. The fact that it isn't, self-contained, in my opinion. It's got so many references to the Avengers, which is kind of annoying me. Let's put anything else on this film. Just bear with me a sec. Let's talk about one thing. Let's talk about my last thing to do with Black Widow. The post-credit scene. I hated it. Well, I didn't hate the post-credit scene, actually. I'm going a bit off topic there. I didn't like the post-credit scene that much. Because I didn't mind it in the cinema. I was like, oh, there's Julie Louis-Dreyfus again. If anyone doesn't remember, Julie Louis-Dreyfus was in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. She was in a couple of episodes, actually. And she helped with, what's his name? Oh, I forgot his name is now, but the new Captain America in The Falcon and Winter Soldier was actually my favourite part of that show. She popped up in the post-credit scene of the film, and she's like, this is the person, she Yelena was at, Black Widow's funeral, and Julie Dreyfus showed up and she gave Elena a picture of Hawkeye, and that the person who he'll kill Black Widow. I thought that was all actually quite good because it set up Hawkeye quite well. I don't mind setup if it's in the post-credit scene because I understand that because I think that's separate from the rest of the film. So I don't mind post-credit scene like that when it sets up another film in the MCU timeline or in some sort of way. But the thing is though, it also, the more I think about an issue to that scene, if you hadn't watched The Falcon and Winter Soldier, you probably won't understand who that character is. You probably won't understand who Julie Louis-Dreyfus is in that scene, and I think that's a problem to this film. I mean, maybe not this film as a whole, actually, but maybe in future MCU movies. Like, we have so much MCU TV shows coming out soon. I mean, we've still got to finish Loki, yeah? And then I'm pretty sure Miss Marvel comes out in September at some point. Then after Miss Marvel, you've got She-Hulk coming out. Then you've got, there's loads coming out. There's loads of MCU TV shows coming out. And the thing is, though, if there is some sort of setup in those MCU shows to the films, or vice versa, there's going to be an issue. Because imagine just casual moviegoers who haven't got Disney Plus. It can happen. I know a bunch of people my age and people who I know quite well actually who don't have Disney Plus and they won't understand that reference. And that's the thing with this film. You sit there and go at the end, okay, who is that? And then it's a bit hard to explain if you haven't seen The Falcon and Winter Soldier, in my opinion. And I feel like Marvel's going to do that quite a bit, and I feel there's going to be some confusion in the future MCU movies, like the whole thing to do with White Vision. How are they going to explain that for casual moviegoers? White Vision, okay, he's not Vision, but he kind of is Vision, but he's not Vision, but he looks like Vision, but he is Vision, basically. It's just things like that. Like, imagine if White Vision pops up in Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, which I think he might, by the way. How are they going to explain that if you haven't seen WandaVision? If you get my point there. How do you explain if, this version of Loki that we've seen in the TV show pops up in Thor: Love and Thunder, which I think he might, by the way, as a little cameo in a post-credit scene or something like that. How are they going to explain that for casual moviegoers who haven't seen Loki on Disney Plus? How are they going to explain if, I don't know, I could go on and on and on. I could go on and on and on about, all these things that it's a problem to do with Marvel right now. The fact that if you're not somebody who's watched the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows, you're going to struggle in the near distant future with, MCU movies when you don't know the connections to the MCU TV shows. And I think that is a problem to these shows. I think the problem has started there, in my opinion, because I honestly think there's going to be a handful of people who watch Black Widow and get to the post-credit scene and won't understand that reference. I honestly think that's going to be the case. And I think that's a problem to all these MCU TV shows as a whole. I could go on and on about that. I might actually do my separate live stream on that. But I just think, the post-credit scene of Black Widow has just kind of been an exemplification of where this is all going with the MCU. The fact that if you have watched the TV shows, you might find some of the stuff in the the films a bit difficult to understand. It might be a bit confusing, and I just think that's a problem at the moment because the MCU TV shows are all linear and everything, and they're all connected, and maybe that's not necessarily a good thing anymore. And maybe we just got our first taste of that in the post-credit scene of Black Widow. But I know a lot of people actually like that post-credit scene of Black Widow. I didn't mind it. I didn't love it. It wasn't one of my favourite post-credit scenes in any of the MCU. But the thing is, though, I didn't mind it. And so those are my spoiler thoughts on Black Widow. Personally, I hate it. I think it's got so many big problems. Some of the problems I just haven't touched on, but I watched the movie about a week ago now, and I want him to forget it. So I made the notes about that about a while ago. I made some notes this morning as well. So I made even more notes. But, the thing is, though, in the end, I hate Black Widow, but if you like it, I'm happy for you if you do. But personally, for me, it just didn't work for me. And so that's topic number one on this live stream today. I've spent about half an hour talking about topic number one. So without further ado, let's move into topic number two. And this is going to be even longer, this topic as well, because I've got so much to say about this topic. Let's move on to James Gunn and his thoughts on superhero movies. Now, if you bear with me a sec, I'm going to go into optical illusion a sec. Ooh. Hello, by the way, if you're watching this, welcome to this live stream. If you want me to answer any questions in the, if you want me to answer any questions in particular, please put in the live chat, and I will answer them. Oh god, my computer's decided not to respond to me. This is great for the live stream, isn't it? Computer's decided not to respond to me. Actually, I can do it from here. Okay. So James Gunn, if you don't know who he is, by the way, James Gunn has said some comments about comic book movies, and he is the director actually of the previous two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's actually going to go on that to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I'm pretty sure is coming out in 2024. Pretty sure, might be next year actually. But anyway, he's also going to go direct to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And he's also directing the Suicide Squad coming out later this month. The Suicide Squad sequel, which is called The Suicide Squad. But anyway, bit of a weird name for the film. but he's directing it later on in this month. And it's a bit funny about this, because he's actually... Pardon me there. It's a bit funny this, because he's actually a director of comic book movies, yet he's kind of said some bad things about them here. Pardon me again. He's kind of said some bad things about him. Well, not necessarily bad things, but he said some interesting things about how he feels about superhero movies right now. Let's read his comment here. And by the way, this is from comicbook.com. And this is all legitimate, by the way. Right. They're mostly... This is what James Gunn said. James Gunn, by the way, director of the Guardians of the Galaxy films and the director of the Suicide Squad coming out later this month. His thoughts on comic book movies nowadays. They're mostly boring to me right now. Gunn said in a recent chart of SFX magazine. I loved them at the beginning, and there's still people trying to do different things with them, so it's not 100% rule, but a lot of them are boring. And that's what I'm going to take from this bit of the live stream. That's what I'm going to take from this topic. So if we're going to read that, let's read that comment again. They're mostly boring to me right now. And by the way, when he said they are, he's referring to comic book movies. I loved them at the beginning, and there are still people trying to do different things with them, so it's not 100% rule, but a lot of them are boring. Now, this comment baffled me. It baffled me. And in the best way possible. Honestly, I got so excited when I read this comment, actually. Because he's a comic book movie director. He's directed the Guardians of the Galaxy films, which in my opinion are the best MCU films. And he's got a new comic book movie coming out later this month. I love the fact that he made that comment on the comic book movies and he's still working in the comic book genre. And that's what I like so much about this comment. The fact that he says, like... some people are trying to do stuff with them, but the fact is, most of them are quite boring right now. I completely agree with him. I do, and I know there'll be a lot of people who completely disagree with James Gunn there. So, most of the comic movies right now are not boring at all. They're all the original ones, their own sort of way and everything. And if you think about it, that's fine, happy for you and everything, if you really enjoy the comic book movies right now. But the thing is, though, there's so many comic book movies, like... And it might sound like a bit like a broken record here, but... The MCU movies don't do anything really that original, and that's what I think he's really getting out there. I don't think he's really referring to the DC films. I might be wrong there, I might be taking James Gunn's comment, completely out of context, and maybe he is referring to the DC films as well. But with the exception of a couple of DC films, I think DC try and always do something different in terms of their films. There's only one DC film recently, which I'd say is actually quite quote-unquote boring. I don't really like using that phrase, but I'm referring to the way James Gunn used it. But there's actually one DC film recently which I'd say is quote-unquote boring, and that's Wonder Woman 1984, because I don't think it does really anything unique in the superhero genre. But the thing is, though, if you look at some of the other DC films recently, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Aquaman, and the 2017 Wonder Woman film, and even Zack Snyder's Justice League for that matter, which isn't technically DC canon, but at the same time, though technically is, and, it's technically DC canon. I'm going to count Zack Snyder's Justice League there, the recent Justice League that was released, a Snyder cut, if you will. Take those 5 films, they're all different and original. In my opinion. I mean, not necessarily original in terms of story, because obviously they're taking off, characters who are already created in the comic books. But the thing is, though, they're all distinctive and original in terms of direction. They try and do something different than each other. They don't blend into each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a certain sort of style to do, Zack Snyder's earlier DC films, like Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Man of Steel, that kind of goes into a similar style in the 2017 Wonder Woman film. But the thing is, though, it's also different. Wonder Woman film, in my opinion, has a lot more energy than something like Batman v Superman. And, even so, you can kind of tell there's a similar sort of, direction going on there in, your quote-unquote early Snyderverse. Then you're watching those films and they have... The thing is, with Wonder Woman, you're watching that film and it has a different direction with it. And that's what I really like about it, though. It's got that sort of energy with it, which I really like about it, though. But then if you take past the Zack Snyder DC universe and you go to the later, more recent DC films, whether you like them or not, and it's fine if you don't, by the way, I personally do, but I like it for the most part. I wasn't a fan of Wonder Woman 94 so much. I didn't hate Wonder Woman 94, but the thing is, though, if you look at something like the more recent, DC films, like Wonder Woman to Aquaman, I'm not going to count the theatrical Court of Justice League because I think it's terrible, but if you kind of Wonder Woman to Aquaman to Shazam to Birds of Prey, and to hopefully the Suicide Squad as well, which looks very different and very wacky from anything previous DC. They all are different. They're all different and original in their own sort of way. You can't look at Shazam and Birds of Prey and go, okay, those 2 films are clear from the same director. Yeah, if you go to the MCU and, you pick out a film like, I don't know, Captain America the First Avenger and Ant-Man, If someone put those two films to me and I didn't know that those two films were made by two different directors, and then they said to me at the end of watching both of those films, those two films are done by the same director, I would believe you. I would believe you. I'd go, okay, yeah, I believe that. Because those films are distinctive in terms of direction and in terms of quality, in my opinion. Those films, in terms of direction, when I talk about that, because obviously those films do have a bit of quality with them and everything in terms of production. And I'm not saying those films are badly made, but what I am saying is they're not distinctive in terms of direction. And so what I think James Gunn is referring to here is when he calls, the comic movies boring, I just think he means that they all blend into each other. And I honestly think he's referring to Marvel movies. Now, people don't know, James Gunn was directed the Guardians of the Galaxy films. He directed two great Guardians of the Galaxy films, in my opinion. I like them both quite a lot, and hopefully he directs a third brilliant Guardians of the Galaxy film as well. But he almost didn't direct that third Guardians of the Galaxy film, which is coming soon, by the way. When I say soon, by the way, within the next 2 years. He almost didn't direct the next Guardians of the Galaxy film. He was fired from Marvel, after directing two of the best Marvel movies, in my opinion. He was fired from Marvel after some offensive tweets from a long while ago. And even so, I didn't agree with those offensive tweets. I also didn't agree with the fact that he should have been fired. I think he should be given a warning and then should have been fired. But the fact is, he was fired. And then DC did this incredibly clever move, in my opinion, which I just love the fact that DC did this. The head of DC, Walter Amada, literally rung up James Gunn a couple of days after he got fired and said, "We want you to start a DC movie." And then, long and behold, the Suicide Squad is coming out now, and he got offered to direct a bunch of DC movies. By the way, it wasn't just he got offered to direct a Superman movie, but he chose to direct a Suicide Squad movie, which I found quite interesting. But anyway, I'll go into that a bit later in another video about the Suicide Squad. But the thing is, though, I love the fact that DC just did that. James Gunn gets fired from Marvel, and then DC pick him up straight away. But anyway, going back on and basically, long story short, Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, obviously saw this and wanted James Gunn back as soon as possible. So he actually managed to get James Gunn back to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So James Gunn will write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now. Apparently, his script was still going to be used even after he got fired from Marvel, but now he's obviously going to come back and direct the third Guardians of the Galaxy film as well. I'm feeling the third Guardians of the Galaxy film is great as well. I'm really excited to see it. But the thing is, though, I just find that really interesting, the fact that he gets fired from Marvel and then he gets to go back to Marvel, but now he's making those comments, which in my opinion, it's a lot like that he's making them about Marvel, because honestly, I do think DC always tries to do something different. Say you will about DC films, whether you like them or not. Aquaman is one of those big budget DC films, which is, it's heavy on the CGI. It's got Jason Momoa, who is amazing because Aquaman, by the way, I love Jason Momoa in that film, and it's doing all these things different. It's like an underwater Star Wars, in my opinion, but it takes off so many films, and I really like Aquaman for that. And I think, and if you look at something like Shazam is like, big, the Tom Hanks film, but a superhero film. It's literally, a kid, he turns into a superhero when he shouts the word Shazam. It's a very similar plot. I wouldn't say it's a very similar plot, but it's a sort of similar plot to the Tom Hanks movie Big, and yet you make it into its own thing. It's kind of like a coming-of-age superhero movie, which is kind of why I like Shazam so much. And at the same time, though, Birds of Prey feels like, a bit of a girl gang movie, but in a really fantastic way, and it feels like Harley Quinn's movie. I understand why people don't like, Birds of Prey. It's not for everyone. Personally, I really enjoyed it, but the thing is, though, that's like a movie made for Harley Quinn, in my opinion. That's a Harley Quinn movie, just in its, energy and its style. I think I actually watched Birds of Prey not too long ago, and I was surprised by how fast the film moves, and the fact that it doesn't really have much breathing space. There's really a moment of Birds of Prey where you can go, let's just breathe a second and really enjoy what we're watching here. No, it's constant going on, always something. There's always something going on in the film, which is kind of why I like it, because it kind of sums up Harley Quinn's attitude. And by the way, this is coming from someone who has no connection to the comics there. I just kind of thought that's the way they portrayed Harley Quinn's character in that film, and that's kind of the way they made the film as well, to kind of make the film that's always something happening, and they like the Harley Quinn character herself. She's going a bit crazy. The film's a bit crazy as well, and that's what we like about Birds of Prey. And even someone not a bigger fan of 184, even that film is different than something like Birds of Prey and Shazam as well. So the thing is, though, that's why I think James Gunn is referring to the Marvel movies here. Because I think Marvel's motto nowadays is quantity over quality. And this is why I think that. If you look at all the Marvel projects that are coming out, have come out recently, or coming out soon, by the way, just going to check the phone to check what that's going on about that, just not a notification. But anyway, if you look at all the Marvel, properties that have come out recently, and that are yet to come out, it just kind of feels like quantity over quality. It feels like they're almost shipping it out like, I don't know, it's a new toy or something. Because look, let's just look at the Marvel movies for a sec that have come out in this year so far, and that are yet to come out. So we've had WandaVision, we've had The Falcon and Winter Soldier, we've had Loki, we're still in Loki, we've had Black Widow, and yet to come out still, we've got the Miss Marvel TV show, we're going to have the Hawkeye TV show like this year, we're going to have the She-Hulk TV show, which I think is going to come out early next year, maybe sometime next year at some point, and then also, let's look at the films, we've got Shang-Chi and Legend of the Rings still to come out, we've got The Eternals still to come out, we've got Spider-Man Home to come out, and at the same time though, one that's kind of Marvel, but kind of not, it's kind of Marvel Sony, we've got Venom Let There Be Carnage to come out yet, and so we've still got so much comic book content yet to come out, and I do see where James Gunn's coming from, because it feels like Marvel is quantity over quality right now, not the other way around, and you know, it looks like Marvel's putting out just thing after thing after thing, and not necessarily, you know, focusing on the quality of their product, and just focusing on getting it out there and getting the money from their product, getting the money from, pardon me there, getting money from like people using Premier Access on Black Widow and watching it for $30 or 30 quid or whatever via streaming, which you can do, by the way. You can actually watch Black Widow on Disney Plus. You don't have to go watch the cinema to go and see it. Or if you go to the cinema to go and see it anyway, you're supporting Marvel anyway there. So that's what I think Marvel are doing. I just think they want the money right now. I mean, obviously every studio in the world wants money. You know, it's kind of it's like if you don't see that, you don't see that. Like, it's one of the people that's like, you know, Disney Star Wars just does it for the money. Yes, no kidding. Every studio does things for the money. And so don't get me wrong, I know Marvel's doing all that stuff for the money right now. But things though, is it just me, or are more people getting a bit annoyed with Marvel stuff though? Like, not a lot of people were disappointed in the WandaVision ending, me included. A lot of people weren't big on the Falcon and Winter Soldier, me included. You know, a lot of people aren't loving Loki. I'm enjoying it, but I wouldn't say it's brilliant TV. And at the same time, though, I don't feel a lot of excitement for Miss Marvel. A lot of people don't like Black Widow, me included. A lot of people don't think, you know, the Eternals looks any good. I'm going to hold them. I'm on the joy about the Eternals. I'm going to hold on the joy about the Eternals. But a lot of people don't like the look of the Eternals. They don't like the look of the trailer. And a lot of people just, I don't know. It feels like there's more of a backlash about Marvel right now. Because, maybe because of the quantity over quality thing. And maybe that's why it goes back to James Gunn's comments there. Let's get his comments back up here. You know, he says, they're mostly boring to me right now. I completely agree. I mean, to be honest, the Marvel movie's been boring to me for a long while now. But the thing is, though, the only Marvel movie which really got exciting to me, which really got me back into watching comic book movies, was the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, which is directed by James Gunn, the man himself, the person who said this quote. And the thing is, though, even so I liked the first Iron Man, I don't think it's a brilliant film. I don't think it's a fantastic piece of cinema. And, you know, all the movies since the first Iron Man didn't really appeal to me personally. But then you get to Guardians of the Galaxy, and I find it all exciting again. I love the whole comic book genre. And then you get to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is quite a lot of fun. And then, you know, I get to Spider-Man Homecoming, and I really enjoyed that as well, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a sort of energy with Spider-Man Homecoming, and it feels almost like a coming-of-age film in a certain way, which I really like about Spider-Man Homecoming. And then Spider-Man Far From Home, not as good as Spider-Man Homecoming, but I still enjoy it because it's got the same sort of energy from the first film. But the thing is, though, I understand where James Gunn is coming from. I understand when he says they're mostly boring to me right now. I mean, I don't know if he's making a joke there, but at the same time, though, if you take his quote literally, I completely agree with him. They're boring. You know, I just feel Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, it's like a toy factory, isn't it? He just wants to bring out something new as soon as possible. Or it's like, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird comparison, but the FIFA games, there's one brought out every year, and in the end, the FIFA games get money, but are they necessarily quality over quantity, or they're the other way around? You get what I mean there? And I just think that's what Marvel's doing at the moment. I don't think Marvel's necessarily focusing on quality as much as they used to, like someone else might say. I don't think they could focus on quality that much in the past, but I think they're focusing less on quality than they did before. Now, we've had WandaVision with a disappointing ending. We've had the Falcon Winter Soldier, which didn't get that much love, to be honest. We've had Loki, which isn't getting that much love at the moment. There's a lot of people who just don't like Loki, who keep criticising it and everything. There's a lot of people who don't like Black Widow, me included. There's a lot of people who are not really that excited for the Eternals. And it just really feel like, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, any future Marvel TV show or Marvel film is going to be bad or anything like that, but it does get to the point where you look at their release schedule and you just start to think, is it quantity over quality or quality over quantity anymore? And honestly, I think it's quantity over quality. And I think that's what James Gunn's coming from. I mean, look what he says. I loved them at the beginning, and there's still people trying to do different things with them. So it's not 100% rule, but a lot of them are boring. I completely agree. At the beginning, Iron Man 1, great. Look at the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. I'm reviewing them right now. My review of Spider-Man 2 will come very, very soon on this channel. The thing is, those Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, the first two, great. And then you look at some of the earlier, just comic book movies in general. Tim Burton's Batman movie, not awful the first Batman movie. I don't mind the first Batman movie, but Batman Returns is great from my opinion. And then you just look at some of the early comic book movies as well, like Christopher Lee's Superman, great film and everything. But then you go on to some of the more recent comic book movies, like, I don't know, Captain Marvel, or let's say Ant-Man and the Wasp, or let's say some like Avengers Endgame in my opinion, where it just all feels boring and bland, and like everything has to be connected. Why though? And I just think DC is trying to do something different there. Can we point out James Gunn has got a DC film coming out later this month. I'm very excited for it. The Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad. He's got a DC movie himself coming out later this month. So I think he's more on the side of DC right now, which I completely agree with. Because DC say all about them, but they're all distinct in terms of direction. They're all trying to do something new and different. Say all about, Zack Snyder's DC films, but they are all distinct in terms of direction. I can't say the same about MCU films. I can't say that Iron Man 2 is distinct to something like Ant-Man and the Wasp, or Ant-Man, or just something like, I don't know, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, or something like, Thor the Dark World, or the first Thor movie. And it's things like that. I applaud, actually, the comic book movie directors like Taika Waititi and James Gunn when they try and do something like that. When they try and do something different, it doesn't always succeed in my opinion, because I'm not a big fan of Thor Ragnarok, which Taika Waititi directed, because I think it has an overuse of comedy in that film. The thing is, though, I do applaud that Taika Waititi got his hands all over Thor Ragnarok, and I really liked that about the film, and I really liked the energy and the twist and the way James Gunn played on the comic book genres in the first two Guardians of the Galaxy films. I think it's because he does it again in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I understand completely where James Gunn is coming from, because in the end, comic movies, in my opinion, are getting boring. Except for the DC films. I get excited every time a new DC film comes out, because I know it's going to be different. Whether it's good is a different matter, but I know it'll feel different than maybe the last DC film I saw. That's what I like about DC right now. And so honestly, when I look at James Gunn's comments there, I think he's referring more to, when he says they're mostly boring right now, I think he's referring to Marvel there. And then when he says, there's people trying to do different things with them, I think he's mostly, not just, but I think he's mostly referring to DC films right now. Shazam, different from Birds of Prey. Aquaman, different from Wonder Woman. Then we go on to, I don't know, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Different, it's different because it's exciting. It does something different than his previous DC work, and that's why I think James Gunn there is referring to DC films in his quote that he got there. And also, another reason I think he's referring to DC films is because he's got his own DC film coming out later on in this month. So I think if he was actually referring to DC films there, I don't think Walter Amada, the head of DC Studios, would be too happy with him, not gonna lie. But still, I completely understand where he's coming from. Honestly, I agree with him. Comic book movies are getting boring right now. There needs to be something which, really ramps them up. And hopefully, that's what the Suicide Squad is. I'm really excited to see the movie. It comes out, it says August the 6th there, but in this country, I'm pretty sure in the UK, it comes out on July the 30th. So I'm again to see that the day it comes out, because I'm very excited to see it. Big game of point. In the end, I completely understand where James Gunn is coming from. I actually agree with him for the most part. And that's kind of the reason I like his MCU movies so much, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, because they do something different in the comic book genre. I like Spider-Man Homecoming as well, I like Spider-Man Far From Home, and I like the first Iron Man as well, because they all do something different. But I can honestly not say the same about some of the other MCU movies. If you like them, fair enough, but personally I just don't. And I think DC always try and do something different, regardless of whether the movies are quality or not. I still, look at the amount of DC movies that released and look at the amount of Marvel movies that released. Is DC quantity over quality or quality over quantity? Anyway, that was my topic number 2 today, and so I'm going to round this off now because I have to get off and do some stuff soon actually. But yes, that's my topics done with today. I thank you for watching. If you stopped me for the whole of the live stream, thank you for watching. Hopefully I made my point kind of speed today. Hopefully I made my point clear on this live stream about both my topics, my Black Widow spoiler review, my spoiler thoughts should I say, and at the same time I know my thoughts on James Gunn's comments on on comic book movies right now. But anyway, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on the video. And if you want me to talk about anything in particular in my next live stream, which I'll probably be doing later on this week at some point, please do let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll cover that in my next live stream. And also remember, if you have a live question to send in for me in my next live stream, please do so, and I'll answer it as best as possible. But for now, guys, thank you as always for watching, and see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye. It takes me about a minute or two to actually end the stream. Bye.